Did you ever get a bad vibe from a building? I've only had it happen a few times, and this was one of those times. Lexington, Kentucky is a thriving city in central Kentucky. I was working for an event company, and I had to work on a gig that took me downtown to the Old Lexington Courthouse. I'd heard stories about this place, about odd happenings, things that gave people a scare, but I kind of blew it off as old wives' tales. Finally, I landed a gig that took me to the old courthouse, and when we pulled up to the building, I felt an ominous feeling come over me. At first, I just played it off as jitters, so I got to work. Part of the job was I had to carry supplies into the building for an event. Once I got inside, I made my way down one of the halls, and I felt a cold breeze blow over me. I made it about halfway down the hallway, and the lights went off. I froze for a second, and I looked around, and there was nobody nearby that could have turned off those lights. And I could actually see the light switch. Luckily, there was enough light at the end of the hall so I could make my way down it to my destination. I made my way up to the next level and sat my boxes down. I stood for a moment just stretching from the exertion, and then suddenly I felt a pressure around my neck. It was first just a subtle feeling like something brushing over me, and then suddenly it was a crushing force around my neck, and I couldn't breathe. And I couldn't yell out because I couldn't get enough breath. I spun around and waved my arms, trying to break free from whatever had me, and there was nothing there. I began to panic. I became woozy, but I had just enough air into me to run. I staggered down the hallway, bouncing off the walls. Heading toward one of the doors and into the daylight. I stumbled out the door and ran from the courthouse, ending up at the sidewalk in front of the building. It was then that the force around my throat disappeared. I bent over with my hands on my knees, wheezing, trying to catch my breath, and finally I was able to breathe freely. I looked up at the building. It seemed to leer at me menacingly. I later learned that some of the basement ran deep under the building, so that must have been why the force around my neck didn't let go until I was far from the building. I also learned that in the early days of the courthouse, men were hung outside the building on crudely built scaffolds. This sent a chill up my spine. I was able to compose myself and finish carrying the few boxes I had to deliver into the building, but I just left them inside the door because I didn't want to go any further in. I made some excuse that I had to take care of a sick relative so I could leave the job early. Anytime I'm in downtown Lexington and I drive down Main Street, I look over at that building and I can feel malevolent force emanate from it. Needless to say, I avoided any more jobs that took me inside that building.